All right, we all tell ourselves a story. This has to do with our self-talk. This is what we tell ourselves. So if our story resonates with reality, we will find ourselves with less obstacles to overcome. Okay? If it resonates with reality, we'll find ourselves with less obstacles to overcome. Success will come to us when we have healthy thoughts. Okay? When we have healthy thoughts, success will come to us. Healthy thoughts would be thoughts that resonate or are in line with reality. So that's important to know. When our story does not resonate with reality, we will find ourselves fighting against natural laws that are unchangeable. Unhealthy thoughts will cause us to live a lie that someone else or our environment created for us. Okay? So our unhealthy thoughts that we're talking about here, these are going against natural laws. This is when we go against natural laws. Probably the most popular natural law I can think of is the law of cause and effect, or sowing and reaping. If we try to negate that and go against that, and we're always thinking unhealthy thoughts, it's kind of like we're just running into the wind. We have an incredible tax against us that keeps us from where we need to go. And the only way to really run with the wind is to have those healthy thoughts rather than the unhealthy thoughts. All right. We will continue struggling with our emotions, behaviors, and results until we choose something else to believe, until we change our conscious thoughts. And unfortunately, that is just the way it is. We're just always going to struggle with this until we change our thought patterns. You probably, we quoted last week, the idea that doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And that's what we do, though, when we just let our subconscious drive. That's what happens. It just keeps doing the same thing over and over. All right. Give me just a quick second. I got to do something real quick. It'll only take me 10 seconds, and I'll be right back. All right, thanks. I'll edit that part out. Okay, so first of all, before we talk about this cognitive behavioral chart, does anybody have any thoughts or questions on what we've already covered?
It certainly depends on so much of it on your experiences. If you grew up with, let's say, a crappy childhood, or if you had people tell you constantly as you were growing up that you're never going to amount to anything, that it is hard to overcome those unhealthy thoughts as you're trying to climb the ladder, or not feel that you're the victim, or that it's hard to be graceful when people do something because it maybe do you wrong, because it feels like it's just another affirmation of you're never going to amount to something. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to change some of those thoughts.
Yeah, no doubt. And it certainly is not a fair game. We don't all come from the same families. We don't all come from the same cultures. And so it really is not fair. But you know what? At some point, though, whenever we decide to take full responsibility for our lives, that's one thing we acknowledge is it's not fair, but it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. This is what I have. This is the cards that I've been dealt, and it's up to me to make those changes going forward. There really isn't anybody that's, born under the perfect situation. We all have, fallible parents in some ways or another. Now, maybe we don't all see that, from some, but and maybe not everybody does have loving parents, but even loving parents aren't perfect. So we all come from a situation where we can get better. Nobody has 100% healthy thoughts through growing up. In fact, it's kind of interesting how, like, when you look at this chart, all of the things on the right, that's about unhealthy filters, unhealthy thought filters, those are all things that are really natural for us to believe. We already somewhat believe that when we're born, because it's all about me. It's all about selfishness. And you don't have to be trained in order to be selfish. You just are. And then all of the things on the left, those are things that you actually have to grow into. You have to get past the things on the right in order to grow into the things on the left. And that's where the healthy thought filters go. And really, when you think about it, what that is, that's your level of maturity. As you go through life from birth to death, how many things we get over on the right and embrace on the left, that will determine our maturity. Sometimes we'll get stuck along the way on some of these unhealthy thought filters and we just can't move on. But when we can move on, we get past those things and we embrace some of the healthy thought filters to replace those, then we'll be successful. But it is interesting how age and wisdom and experience has something to do with that.
I think when you speak the healthy filters to other people, so whether it be your children or whether it be your employees or your peers, when you speak healthy filters, that also helps change the unhealthy thought processes in your head, because you start using those words and those mannerisms and that compassion and that grace and taking responsibility and verbalizing it. It's just another way of moving those unhealthy thoughts out of your brain.
That's exactly right. And what you're really doing is you're reprogramming your mind. You're taking some of that stuff that's the unhealthy thought filters, and you're reprogramming them. Yeah, you're replacing it with healthy thought filters. And you're right. The more we do it, that's the thing about our brain. Repetition is really important. Doing something over and over and over and over with a commitment. That's the only way to replace these thought filters. And I think you touched on something else too, Mickey, and that is that other people are involved in this as well. It's really hard to be out on an island and change your unhealthy thought filters to healthy thought filters. I mean, imagine that. If you actually lived on an island, why would you do that? Well, the reason for doing it tends to go away, but then also the support that we absolutely need in order to change those filters wouldn't be there as well. So, and this is why we need people in our businesses to help coach us and to help us think healthy thoughts and replace our unhealthy thoughts with healthy ones. It's why we, why we all need a coach to some degree, whether it be a professional coach or a mentor that coaches you in your life, whoever it might be. That's why we need that. We absolutely need it. So what the sheet that you're looking at right here, minus all the graphics on the edge, the sheet that you have on your printout, I would encourage you to print that and have some printouts available for you for when you do meet people. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to pull this out automatically, but it does mean that if you're engaged with somebody and you're listening to them talk about their circumstances, and you're paying attention to their thoughts about their feelings, this can be really, really helpful. Because if somebody's talking about their circumstances and they skip over their thoughts and they start telling you how they feel about those circumstances, or maybe you ask the question, how do you feel about that? And they tell you about their emotions, well, now you see how they feel, and it gives you a clue on what they might be thinking that's causing their feelings. For instance, if somebody comes to you and you sit down with them and they're talking to you and they think, I should get a raise, and that's kind of the whole thing. Their circumstance is that they're not appreciated. Their circumstance is that they do all of the work and get none of the pay. Their circumstance is that they've been in there a long time. Their circumstance is that they're better than the other people around them. And in their mind, that's what all of the circumstances are. And so because of that, they feel like they should get a raise. Well, if those circumstances were all true, what they think about those circumstances were all true, it might be true that they might deserve a raise. But there's a good chance that some of those thoughts about the circumstances might be greatly embellished. They might be completely fabricated. They might be just coming from a place of unhealthy thoughts. And by using this model, you can actually get to that. You can ask good questions.